Hey everybody, it's Commander Clyde. I'm here with a solo lane guide of sorts. This video is just going to be basics of solo laning. I was trying to think of a video to do today and I figure I guess we'll do the guide. Planning on doing one at some point. So basic thing to start out for the solo lane. This is almost always going to be your build. Warrior's Blessings, 3 Chalice, and 4 health pods. I like to bank 300 gold. I'm weird, I guess. There we go. I'm in here with the bots who may be bugged. I don't know. The bots don't matter for this, though, so ignore me. Okay, so we've done that. Now we will go over to the lane. Look for our opponent. Sometimes it'll be worth it, especially since we're King Arthur here, to fight your opponent in the lane when they show up. The bots will not do this, obviously. They wait for their waves, but people will come up in the solo lane, and it might be your best interest to fight them, get Warrior's Blessing stacks, especially if you're a god like King Arthur that gets free pressure as it is. Obviously the bot doesn't know how to deal with this. They just do blind aggro usually. The hard bots are a little better about that. So you get free pressure here. Ignore the ping spike. So at this point you would go to your blue, your jungler would be here. If you clear the lane fast enough, you can get the experience. Can give you a big lead. If you get the pressure advantage, you can leave the wave before it's cleared. Minions will finish it off, and you can go get your buff. So he's kind of dumb. He's come over here because he's a bot. But we're not worried about that.
Oh no, one of my guys got killed! For the good guys.
Okay, never forget to pop your pots, especially when you're trading aggro on the minions with your opponent. Usually the play is hit your opponent in the wave, back up, pull the melees, and then you can go from there because your minions will fight and they'll get more pressure on the enemy minions since you pulled them in. Enemy solo laner has to decide, do they want to fight you with the minions pulled and risk taking more poke, or do they want to just wait for the waves to fight each other? Clear it out. Of course, if you get any minion pressure, go for the totem. Simple, basic stuff. You usually want to do it in between waves. If you've got the pressure advantage... If you've got the pressure advantage and you're not worried, what you would do is wait until the minions are about here at the tower line and start totem. And by the time you're done, they shouldn't be cleared. Taking a lot of minion poke there. I let it get pressure while I was talking. Okay. Yeah, it's not always very smart. Case in point. Like I said, that doesn't matter. So anyway, like I was saying, if the minions are at the tower line about, you start totem, then they'll meet up close to when you're finishing, and the wave... Enemies should not have your wave cleared. And if you got pressure, most likely they're just going to focus the wave and not try to contest you at the totem. And you get the free MP5. So you're getting the pots that you get here based on the idea that you're going to be getting your blue buff and the totem. If you use your abilities correctly, you won't run out of mana in the solo lane typically. Kind of picked a god that gets pretty free lane control. Can't jump. Hit that.
Excalibur! Strike!
So now he's not dead and continuing to gain health back. But that's fine. Gives us the opportunity to talk about ulting for pressure, which is something you can do. You don't necessarily need to kill your opponent, you just need to secure more farm than they can. And ulting them in lane creates pressure,
Artifact when I see it.
and then you can go from there. Use the teleport here, we don't want to miss too much experience. Hey everybody, it's Commander Clyde, just breaking in here. Talk about builds real quick. Didn't get into specifics during the game because there's a lot to talk about in terms of the game and then build, so it's better to just handle them sort of separately. Alright, like the basics I said, your start in solo lane is almost always going to be, not that, this guy. This guy, I didn't select that right, did I? Okay, hold on. Oops. Okay. That's bugged. Okay, so we get the Warrior's Blessing, we get the Chalice of Healing, we get the pots 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the teleport. Where do my actives go? Any relics? There we go. Teleport, almost always going to be your start, regardless of what you're playing. It's always the most optimal thing to get the most sustain you can. So we get lots of pots and the Warrior's Blessing, because your main goal is you're trying to manipulate the minion aggro early to get more pressure on your opponent, make them take more damage, all of that, and it's in your best interest to get as much healing as you can to do that. Rest of the build, since we're looking at King Arthur in this example, Glad Shield, very core. Generally this is going to depend on comp, but you want either Contagion or Pestilence once you have finished your boots and everything. Okay, it's bugged. Once you have finished your boots, which is going to be Warrior's Blessing in solo, because you want damage and pressure. That gives you more than, say, these are. These are good in support. Don't use them in solo. Not recommended. So yeah, that's your main core for Arthur. Now, if you weren't playing King Arthur or Tyr, who I would get Glad Shield on, you're going to build a little bit differently. Usually that could be early Void. Sometimes it's Boots Rush, which means you get boots first for the damage spike, and then you build into the other items we talked about. Generally, that's going to be your gods that have only a few abilities that have long cooldowns, things like that. So you're looking at typically Chalk, Odin, Nike. There's other gods I could talk about. You get the idea. It's gods that have good damage on their abilities, but they either have long cooldowns and they're not efficient in a way that would grant Gladiator Shield being useful. You can get Glad Shield on Sun Wukong too. That's kind of situational, but he does use it pretty well because his one's on a short cooldown. Bologna can work, but I think Berserkers is better on her. Since we're talking about that, Berserkers is going to be better on Bologna, Osiris, Amma in some cases, but I feel like you'd be better served just doing Boots Rush on her most of the time. I didn't mention Erling Shin. He doesn't get played that often in solo, so we don't really talk about that. Osiris obviously uses Berserker Shield the best. Only do that when you're ahead. If you're behind, this item doesn't work as well. If you get behind, Boots Rush, lots of defense, because your mitigation passive is going to save you if you get behind. Alright, so that's most of the core idea there. At damage, you're not going to see a lot of this. If you're going to build damage, it's going to be that guy there, or it's going to be a hybrid item like this. If you're going to be building damage, typically you're not building a lot. You might have boots plus one other item that's going to be a hybrid. Because your goal is be tanky, be hard to kill, be crazy, be really annoying. Now we get to non-core defense. Obviously breastplate is a good item there. Genji's really great item. Get it. And most of the time it's good to just get it anyway. Even if your opponent's only got 2 magicals, still get it. The passive is totally out of control on this item. And it's got health. It's got MP5. And it's got cooldown reduction. So your best friend. And then we can get into other guys like this. These are situational items. Only for certain gods. So, you know, Guardian solo laners, they really like Mystical Mail because it's good for them to have that additional damage for boxing. They're also going to like these 2 items here, Midgard and Breastplate, depending the matchup on Midgard. That's going to depend on what the other team is. If they've got multiple gods that like to auto attack, say you got a set or a set and a hunter on the enemy team, something like that. It's a good item. Like we said, I'm going to talk about the blink later in the video. You guys will see that. Second item, again, second relic is situational. Thorns can be a good pick if you're not a solo laner that's really good at initiating. But if you're King Arthur, usually the blink is going to be better. So you can blink ult a carry and kill it. Now, if you're in a situation where your team is missing something like a shell because they went with aggressive support, you can pick that up to help your team with peel. Horrific can work in some cases, but it's not the best item. Belt of Frenzy can work sometimes too, depending again on your comp. If you've got an aggressive support that went other relics, this could be good. Although if you have aggressive support, they probably should be getting Belt of Frenzy themselves, so there's that. Other things to talk about. So most of these items translate to Guardians as well. Boots, depending the god you're playing, probably going to get Pen Boots. Artio, Yorm, they really like it a lot. Not so much Sobek or other Guardians that struggle a little bit with sustain. Or Sobek is more mana issues. That would be why you'd get mana boots. And then, like I said, hybrid items. Let me jump over to a Guardian real quick here just to make this a little faster, a little easier to understand. So on Guardians, I like early Jade Imp on them typically if you're against a physical solo laner. Plus, if there's a physical jungler, then that makes this even more effective. I like to get that early and then jump into this or this, depending again on what I'm playing. If I'm playing a Guardian that gets a lot of pressure, then I'm probably going Contagion. If I one that struggles with mana sustain and cooldown, get this. Get Void sometimes. I'll do that on Yorm too. And then maybe throw one of these in there. And then last thing to talk about, the last item, I like Spirit's Robe a lot because 40 protections for both, cooldown reduction, 20% CCR, underrated stat, very good for your solo laners. If they're diving backline, they're going to get hit with a lot of CC probably. This will help you deal with that quite a bit. And also you get additional damage mitigation if you're hit with hard CC. That's a big deal. Especially if you're a godlike tier that only gets CC'd for 1 second. Then this item is really nasty to get for late game team fights. Alright, with that, I think that covers the basics with building. So I'll let you guys get back into the practice game. If I had more mana there, I probably would have gone to proxy the wave.
One of the good guys got killed.
Because I know their solo laner,
Another one?
since
Yeah,
I
another
hadn't
one.
backed yet, and their solo laner had been killed, I know he's going to have used his teleport already. So ideally there, while he's been killed from the gank, I want to proxy.
Look at yourself. You're just feeding me kills.
Of course,
The question is really, what do you get with that
Gladiator
kill?
Shield's broken.
Your left tower is under attack.
Those of you that don't know the terminology, so here,
Yo, another
proxying
one?
is you
Yeah,
walk
another
over
one.
here in between the towers and kill the minion wave when it shows up.
Your left
Do
tower
that right
is under
now.
attack.
And what that will do,
One of the other guys just got.
again, more pressure, but it also means the minions aren't here. They'll have to deal with yours that are coming
Your
in,
left tower has
which
been
means you can invade buffs, or you can rotate to mid. My preferred strategy is rotate to mid, generally. So the Kukulkan's a bot, so he's a little slow. So we could come in here, pressure the wave. If this was actual players, we'd be able to probably set up a gank, but well, actually, we got it there. That can be a good thing to do. Shade back into the jungle. They might walk up to clear the wave,
Your team
and then
has
eventually
destroyed a
die.
middle enemy Your right tower is under attack.
So Odin didn't clear the wave properly, so we can actually get this for free.
One of the good guys got killed. Your left tower is under attack.
So you wanted to hit me with that, huh?
Yeah, that
Body
enemy
blocking
is
like a
online.
boss.
You got
Easy
one of
mode.
them, but there's a lot more. We got it. We're gonna talk about this one after the game. You can't be dying there. This power rivals Excalibur
Finish
itself.
those boots. We can get the huge power spike. Since we have pressure here, opponent's been killed, we can walk back without teleporting.
One of the other guys just got.
Should be your goal. That's one of the ways proxying can be useful, because next time you come back to the lane, you don't need to teleport. Try my best to teleport as little as possible.
Yeah, another one.
Fortunately, the bots don't know any better.
Excalibur! Strike! For Camelot! For Avalon! Your kingdom has many
Yeah,
dark
King Arthur
souls
reigns.
ready to rip it apart. Watch yourself.
Let's wait for the minions to die. See if I can proxy this. Which means they'll probably get it on their own. So you can take the buff again, rotate to mid,
Your team has destroyed a right enemy tower.
usual stuff. At this point, once I get the tower, I'd be exerting more pressure on the other waves.
Another one.
Rout them from the
Like that.
land.
Good time to come in since our mid was low. That's going to bait them forward. Which means you can come over here, get the gank, which will let you set up for Gold Fury, etc., etc. So we can lead with that because we're Arthur. And I screwed up, but he's dead. Then you'd set up for Gold Fury there, etc. I said that already. What am I doing? So then your main objective at that point is group with the team as much as possible. Occasionally go back to your lane just to make sure they don't push it forward too much.
A true king is not afraid to take blows with his knights.
Now you could get Blink or Thorns. Generally as an initiator, Blink is going to be better for you. Because your job late game is to... See, he's pushing that, so you can just teleport here. That's what teleport is also good for. You can get pressure in other parts of the map. And then if your tower gets pushed, I am lagging out again. So if your tower does get pushed like that, you can easily get back to it. Well, this is fun.
Another point for the good guys. An enemy has been slain.
I'm not cutting out this laggy mess though because there's important points here.
Another one.
Your kingdom has
another
many
one.
dark
You have
souls
slain
ready
an
to
enemy.
Yep.
rip it apart.
Calm down at a good time
Watch
for me to
yourself.
finish him off. But like I was saying, you can get pressure in other parts of the map. Use your teleport to go back to your tower if you need to defend it or get farm. Can essentially be in two places at once.
Your left tower is under attack.
Now here we look at our comp and see what's happening.
Another one. Yeah, another one.
A lot of magical damage here. So we may not want that, but could also get a
I
runic
recognize a legendary artifact
if
when
we're
I
not
see
that
it.
worried about magical damage and we can continue our aggression. Anyway, like I was saying before, I went back to the tower. You get the blink
did you say
because
that?
your job late game as a solo laner is to be the backline initiator. You want to be blinking
Has destroyed a
and running
mighty
at
enemy
those
tower.
carries and killing them as fast as you possibly can. That's your main objective. Ignore your support. If your support does what he's supposed to properly, he will wait for your initiation and then decide what to do, whether that's counter, whether that's also initiate if they aren't getting backline pressure against your team, or if they get backline pressure as a result of your initiation, then they'll stay back and make sure their carries aren't dead.
The killing spree, no problem.
And if your carry's positioned correctly, they won't be too far away. This is really
Another
fun.
point for the good guys. An enemy has been slain. Divine. Why not? We'll just say the word. You're divine.
I can sense only destruction from you.
I have no idea where I am on
I
the map
mustn't
right
let you pass.
I'll come and go with you.
now. Yeah, this lag's pretty
Press on,
hilarious.
knights.
Okay, so that's not an ordinary thing to happen, obviously, because you don't usually get
Not like this.
the maximum ping possible. Anyway, that gives us time to talk, though. Like I was saying, you are a backline initiator. Blink makes it easier for you to get to the carries and pick them off. And if your carries are in the right spot, they'll follow that up
Don't fear them,
with
friends.
inappropriate ability.
You're right.
And then that's the basic idea late game, is you keep doing that, and eventually
First I'm gonna
you
shut you down, then I'm gonna take a tower.
Your middle
will
tower is under attack. Your right tower is
hopefully
under
get to the
attack.
Titan and finish that
Your
off.
middle tower is under attack.
And I mean, I think
Another
that
one?
covers most of the
Yeah, another
basic
one.
ideas. Most of the basic stuff is starting the game,
One of the
building,
other guys just got.
which we talked about before this. Alright,
Another point for the good guys. An
so I
enemy
think
has
that
been slain.
does that for the basics, guys. I hope you all enjoyed that basics guide video. Hopefully there'll be some more guides about other things like warding, how to team fight, if I can figure out how to do that. That's probably just get footage from a ranked game. You know, stuff like that, how to best use your lead, blah, blah, blah. Different other things that are more advanced, but basics for now. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. I'll see you guys later for some more Smite. Have a good one.